You were paid to have sex with the members at Bloom's?
Yes.
Did this sex club owner kill one of his girls? Or was he framed by a club member?
I didn't do it.
You knew Margot White pretty well, didn't you?
I guess you could say that.
I do say that, Detective. Like Sergeant Vale, you too had a relationship with the deceased.
No, I didn't mean that the way that it sounded.
Judge Jill Jakes and Judge Lewis Welsh preside. Where the issues are real, the decisions are final. Superior Court.
Look at that sleaze. A pimp and a murderer. He dresses like a banker.
It's all part of Bloom's protective covering, like using college co-eds for his hookers and calling his house a prostitution, a private club. But we get to expose him today for who he really is. And I better warn you, better be prepared to take a few shots yourself, Sergeant. His attorney, Anthony DiNapoli, is a tough fighter.
Yeah. You know, I don't condemn you for your occupation, Hugo, but it's not likely to help you with the court.
Running a swingers club does not make me a murderer, no matter how much Ron Vale wants to make it so. You just get Professor Rice on the stand. He owes me. He'll tell the truth. He'll convince the judge that Ron Vale's not the uncorruptible cop he pretends to be.
All rise. Come to order. Superior Court is now in session. The Honorable Jill Jakes, judge presiding. Please be seated.
All right, counsel, shall we go forward with the case of State versus Bloom?
So when the Vice Squad decided to crack down on organized prostitution, Bloom's place was at the top of the list.
How did that investigation proceed, Sergeant?
Well, I'd known Hugo Bloom, the club's owner-operator, slightly when we were both together at Powers University, so I was picked to apply for membership. Initiation fee is $10,000, and the dues are $1,000 a month.
Well, that's rather steep. What were the benefits of membership?
Well, Bloom's has a bar, a dance floor, live music, a dining room, and room service for the 50 or so rooms upstairs where members may go for privacy and sex.
So, in other words, it's a house of prostitution.
Well, the management hires hostesses, not professionals. Most of Bloom's hostesses are Powers University students, girls, very nice, intelligent, attractive, between 18 and 21, who were lured into prostitution by Hugo Bloom.
Objection. Your Honor, those facts aren't in evidence. We're prepared to show that those hostesses signed an employment agreement that they will not, in fact, have sex with the members.
Objection sustained. Strike the last remark.
Was there an official prohibition against the hostesses having sex with the members?
Yes, but that was just to protect Bloom against pandering charges. I observed hostesses taking members upstairs all the time, and I interviewed a number of the hostesses, and they admitted they were hired to turn tricks.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained. Miss Quinn, would you direct your witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Sergeant, without telling us what was said, would you give us the names of the young women that you talked to?
Well, I'm not going to embarrass those who didn't consent to go public. But I can name Opal Simpson, who's here today, and Margot White, who was killed to silence her.
Come on, Your Honor, please.
Well, I'm going to strike that last on my own motion. Sergeant, you have testified in trials before. What's the matter with you? Now, don't make it necessary for me to correct you again.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Would you tell us a little more about the victim, Margot White?
Well, Margot was just 20, Powers University junior, a history major. She was working her way through college by waiting tables when Bloom recruited her as a hostess for his place. Margot looked like a model, and a lot of men fell for her at first sight. She had that effect on men. She did very well at Bloom's, but she had ambitions.
What kind of ambitions?
Well, after I got to know her, I found out that she was really anxious about making good grades. She wanted to go to law school and become a lawyer. I told her she was worrying about the wrong thing, that I was a cop and that we were getting ready to raid Bloom's and that a conviction for prostitution would keep her out of law school more surely than poor grades. But if she was willing to testify against Bloom, I'd see she received immunity and there'd be no charges to worry about.
And what did she say to your offer?
Well, she agreed. And on the night of February 19th, after she got off work, we were going to go down to headquarters and file an official statement. But when she didn't meet me in the bar at midnight like she said she would, I went looking for her.
And you found her?
Yeah. She was in one of the upstairs rooms. Nude, strangled to death, with her pantyhose wrapped around her neck. The coroner fixed the time of death between 11 p.m. and midnight.
Now, you assisted in the following homicide investigation?
That's correct. We found that Bloom was at the club at the time, but he couldn't account for all of his time. And Opal Simpson, one of the hostesses and a co-ed with Margot at Powers, accused Bloom. So based on motive and opportunity and Simpson's statement putting Bloom in the room with Margot at the time that she was killed, I arrested and charged Hugo Bloom with murder.
Thank you, Sergeant. I have nothing more.
Mr. DiNapoli.
Yeah, I don't have much, Detective. I just want to check on a personal note here. You knew Margot White pretty well, didn't you?
I guess you could say that.
I do say that, Detective. In fact, you were sleeping with her in the evenings when she got off work at Bloom's, right?
No, we spent some time after work talking. I was trying to get her to roll over on Bloom. It was all in the line of duty.
Yes, and a very pleasant duty indeed, Detective. The fact is that you have a personal involvement in this case, and you're determined to nail anybody for this murder, and my client, Hugo Bloom, will do just fine.
Come on, it's not that way.
Oh, no? Perhaps you can tell us why, Detective. When the medical examiners and the police officers arrived, they found you holding Margot White's body in your arms, crying.
Don't ask me how I got involved in Bloom's. Even now, I can't get it right in my head.
Was it just the money, Opal?
I thought so at the time, but it was something else. I grew up in a very religious family.
Do your parents live in Madison Heights?
God, no. If they knew what I've done, what I've been doing, I guess it was my way of breaking free, showing myself that I belonged to myself. It was so dumb and so wrong.
So you were paid to have sex with the members at Bloom's?
Yes.
Did any money change hands?
Well, not between the members and me. Hugo added a room use charge to his monthly dues, bar, and dining room bill.
How did he keep track of the room use charges?
Well, when a hostess had sex with a member, she was supposed to get the member to sign a charge slip and drop a copy by Hugo's office.
Now, on the night of February 19th, did you take a member upstairs?
Yes.
What time?
About 11 p.m.
Did you see or hear anything unusual?
Well, it wasn't so unusual because the walls at Bloom's were thin. If someone in the next room spoke loudly, you could overhear them. When the guy I was with finished, he left, and I stayed behind to clean up. And that's when I overheard Margot in the room next to me.
Are you positive about your identification?
Oh, yes. She had a peculiar laugh. No one at Bloom's laughed like that. It was sort of cruel and ironic, not humorous at all. Then I heard Margot say, well, why shouldn't I tell? And then I overheard a man's voice say something like, well, what would keep you quiet? Or what do you want? And Margot said money. And that's all I heard. Because then I dropped a copy by Hugo's office.
And was Hugo there?
No, of course not. Because it was his voice that I heard in the room upstairs where Margot's body was found just a half an hour later.
Being cool, you'll find, is a state of mind. A refreshing attitude. Things get hot. Cool is all you got. You're doing it country cool. You're doing it country cool. You're doing it country cool.
Now get the refreshing country cool taste of Mountain Dew in a diet. New Diet Mountain Dew with 100% NutraSweet.
I started work right after I got my degree. Eventually, I put everything on hold and started a family. Ask my daughter what I do, and she'll say, Mom makes orange juice. That's not so easy. This is 100% pure juice. We don't add sugar. We don't add preservatives. We don't add anything. And that's what being select is. It's not just some name on a box. I wouldn't let it be.
Kathy Brown makes Citrusil Select for your family and for hers.
I'm Jerry Baker, and this is the American Beauty Rose, one of the many #1 select and patented roses on sale at Kmart. The packages look similar. The difference is patented roses are the latest varieties available, while #1 select roses have been popular for years. Both are guaranteed to grow. To help them along, use Super K Grow Systemic Rose and Flower Care. That way, there's no telling how far you can grow.
Get Super K Grow Premium Rose Bushes, guaranteed to grow from Kmart.
Hey, would you catch a bus for some Godfather's Pizza?
Sir?
Godfather's Pizza with all your favorite toppings. The taste worth doing anything for. For a limited time, get a large original combo for only $9.99.
You may cross-examine, Mr. DiNapoli.
Now, you claim that you heard my client's voice from the next room, yet you couldn't hear the words exactly. If you couldn't hear the words clearly, Miss Simpson, how could you possibly know for certain who spoke them?
Well, the vice cop said that Margot was going to testify against Bloom. And I clearly heard her say, why shouldn't I tell? Who else could it have been?
That's a good question, Miss Simpson. We're going to try and answer that as the trial develops. Let's talk about what happened the previous night around midnight when you got off duty in the hostess's locker room. There was a violent argument between you and Margot White, wasn't there?
We had a few words.
A few words? Come on, Opal. Others, including my client, overheard it. Let's get some details here.
Well, Margot claimed that her Movado watch with $500 was missing from her locker.
And she accused you of taking it, didn't she?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Just because I had gotten a headache and went to my locker for an aspirin, she thought that that was proof that I had ransacked her locker and stolen her watch.
But it didn't end there, did it, Opal?
No, she wouldn't shut up. And I was tired and still had that headache. So I threw something at her, and she threw it back and we went at it.
Then what happened?
Well, then Hugo came in to break it up. And that's when Margot slipped. She yelled out, I know a cop, and I'm going to have him arrest you for theft. And Hugo looked at her real funny. Maybe that slip about the cop was the reason why Hugo took her upstairs to talk to her the next night.
Or maybe, after hearing Margot's voice in the next room, you waited till her male companion left, you went in there and you strangled her to death. You're covering your own crime by accusing my client, aren't you?
Hey, that's crazy. Who would kill over a $500 watch?
Margot threatened to tell the police. Your family, Opal, would have found out exactly how you make your living. Just silenced her, didn't you?
No. She was strong. And it had to have been a man with her in that room. And I know it was Hugo Bloom.
No further questions.
The prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Are you ready for the defense, Mr. DiNapoli?
Your Honor, while my client doesn't have to testify, we want the truth to come out in this trial here. He's got nothing to cover up. I call Hugo Bloom to the stand.
I run a legitimate 1980s style business. I help people get together. I provide a place and an atmosphere for them, and it's all perfectly legal. I had nothing to fear from an investigation or from Margot's testimony.
You ever been in trouble with the law before, Mr. Bloom?
I've never been arrested for anything. I started out as a bar manager when I left college, and in a year I was a partner, and in another year I bought out my partner. I was successful because I got a sense of what people want. I changed the decor, I added live music, a good dining room, and fine-looking hostesses.
Well, what about these upstairs rooms that we've heard about from other people?
When I began getting requests for a room where my customers could be alone with new friends they met at my place, I realized there was a need to provide that service. So I started a private club with rooms upstairs members could use. Look, it's a swingers club, huh? What the French call a maison de rendezvous. A place where people go for privacy and sex.
And is there sex between the club members and the hostesses?
No. Or at least I don't know about it if it happens. I mean, the atmosphere is conducive to sex. That's what it's there for. But I don't watch the girls every minute, and some may go upstairs with a good-looking guy, but hey, that's not what I'm paying them for.
Now, if what you say is true, can you explain why Bloom's caught the attention of the authorities?
Tony, that's easy to answer. This investigation would have never taken place except that Ron Vale has nursed a grudge against me since college days.
Why don't you let us in on the nature of this grudge, Mr. Bloom?
Well, you see, the professors at Powers were underpaid, and some were willing to turn an F into a C for a little consideration. Vale was failing a history course taught by Dr. Glenn Rice over there. He needed a passing grade to graduate.
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant and immaterial.
Of course it's relevant, counsel. Your Honor, I'm trying to show, not only a motive for the vice investigation, but for the murder accusations as well.
Well, I'm going to allow this line of questioning, but don't abuse it, Mr. DiNapoli, and don't carry it any farther afield.
Thank you. So what happened with regard to Ron Vale's grade?
Vale gave me $500, and I approached Dr. Rice. He'd cooperated with me before. But before we sealed the deal, the dean called me in and confronted me with proof I'd been negotiating grades, and I got kicked out of school.
And what did that have to do with Ron Bell?
Well, I was down on my luck and dumb. I kept Ron's $500, and he didn't get his passing grade. He had to stay an extra semester. Believe me, if I had it to do again, I would have given him back his money. It would have been easier and cheaper.
So you assume that that's the motivation behind this investigation, huh?
Sure. Yeah, he's trying to nail me for pandering. That's his way of getting back at me. And maybe he had a shot coming. But this murder charge is too much. Now, I don't know who killed Margot. I try to screen everybody who comes to Bloom's, but maybe a kook slipped in. All I'm sure of is I didn't do it.
At Long John Silver's, we've got 2 new salads you'll want to dive into. Our new Chef's Combo Salad has waves of shrimp and chicken, and our Hawaiian Chicken Salad has tender, all-white meat. They start at $2.99, and we guarantee every penny back if you don't love every bite. They're gonna make a splash, so come on, dive in. Long John Silver's. Great new salads, guaranteed. We want to see you happy.
More truck for your buck. At Lou Jack Auto Plaza, you get more Chevy truck for your hard-earned buck. With the largest Chevy truck selection in the Quad Cities, your bucks will be driving the truck you want now. 1988 S10 Blazers, S10 pickups, and the all-new full-size 2- and 4-wheel drive pickups. Quality and selection at Lou Jack's. More truck for your buck. The truck to get a Chevy, the place, Lou Jack's.
Secret thoughts of first dates. Exposed on Love Connection. Sudden surprise.
When I saw him, I said to myself, oh, no.
Riveting romance.
She says, well, I'm going to dance. And I said, okay. She says, with another guy.
And genuine joy.
We definitely made a love connection.
Chuck Woolery makes it happen on Love Connection. It's no secret why it's so much fun.
It's Channel 4 Spirit, weeknights at 10:30.
Didn't I try to tell you? Didn't I try to share? When the rain came, well, you went away.
This year, 5,000 of our children will take their own lives. One way to prevent suicide is listening. Are you?
When you may cross-examine.
Mr. Bloom, you claim that you don't run a house of prostitution, and yet you acknowledge that when a member takes a hostess upstairs, he fills out a charge slip and gets billed for room use. How much?
We charge $150. Lots of hotels charge more.
Is this the pad of charge slips that Margot White used?
Well, it looks like it, yeah.
And when usually is a charge slip filled out?
When the member goes to the room.
But there was no charge slip found in Margot White's room, was there?
Would you expect the murderer to leave his signature? The guy probably took it.
No, Mr. Bloom, you see, these charge slips are numbered at the time they're printed. And Sergeant Vale checked. Not one number is missing.
Well, then, for some reason, Margot didn't fill out a slip when she should have.
Maybe she was having a private conversation with the boss and didn't need to.
It's not true. I was never in that room with Margot.
I have no further questions.
Call Dr. Glenn Rice to the stand. Now, Doctor, you've been a professor of history for, some 15 years at Powers now, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You remember teaching Ron Bell?
Yes. He was working part-time. Did a very poor job in my class, which requires a lot of outside reading. I had to fail him.
And did Hugo Bloom approach you about changing Ron's grades from an F to a C?
Well, I would have preferred it had that not become generally known, but I, of course, refused, and I took no money from Bloom, and I should have reported the offer to the dean. I didn't. Some other people did. He was expelled, and I thought that was that.
Your Honor, may I have a moment to confer with my client, please?
Yes, sure.
Professor, did you also teach the deceased, Margot White?
Yes, in several classes. She was a history major, an A student. Her death was a tragedy.
Oh, then I take it you knew Margot White worked at Bloom's.
No, I didn't know her that well.
Come on now, Doctor, aren't you a member of Bloom's? Didn't you see Margot at work there?
Where would I get a $10,000 initiation fee and $1,000 a month for dues? My pay barely covers my family's living expenses as it is.
Professor, my client just informed me that when Bloom's first opened, you got a complimentary membership for past favors. You probably have a copy of that membership in your wallet as we speak.
Well,
Your Honor, why don't you ask the professor to see if he's got it in his wallet?
Sir, if you have a Bloom's membership card on you, please produce it for Mr. Denali.
Oh, yes, here it is. But I hardly ever used it, and whenever I did, I always paid cash for my drinks. You see, my wife, if she found out, I mean, if they ever sent a monthly statement to my home...
You used that card to gain membership on February 19th, didn't you?
Well, that's several months ago. It's hard to remember exactly.
Mr. Bloom remembers seeing you there, saw you talking to Margot.
Well, I may have stopped in for a drink. I may have said hello to Margot.
Then you lied when you testified that you didn't know Margot White worked at Bloom's. Why would you lie about that, Professor?
Margot, she was my student. I didn't want people to think our relationship was anything less than proper.
Ah, your relationship. Like Sergeant Vale, you too had a relationship with the deceased.
No, I didn't mean that the way that it sounded. You can check all of Margot's room charges. You won't find my name on any of them.
Of course there's no name on those charges. You gave her something other than money, didn't you, Professor? You gave her A's in her history course.
No. I have never given a grade for consideration, not to Margot, not to anyone.
My client says you did, Professor. What went wrong with the deal? Did Margot find out that Bloom's was going to close? She need a new source of income? She threatened to go to the dean if he didn't give her money.
No. Why would anyone come to me for money? I have none.
That's right. You had no money, Professor, so you killed her.
That's ridiculous.
Is it, Dr. Rice? Is it really? Miss Simpson, I want you to listen very carefully. See if you hear a voice that you recognize. Professor, I want you to say, what will keep you quiet? What do you want?
No, I won't say it. I refuse to say it, and you can't make me testify against myself.
No, Dr. Rice. You certainly have the right to remain silent if what you say might incriminate you.
A double pleasure's waiting for you. A double pleasure from Double Mint Gum. A double great feeling, making you realize Double Mint's the one for you. Double fresh, double smooth, double delicious to chew. A double pleasure is waiting for you. Double Mint Gum. A double pleasure is waiting for you. Double Mint Gum. Didn't I try to tell you? Didn't I try to say when the rain came, well, you went away.
This year, 5,000 of our children will take their own lives. One way to prevent suicide is listening. Are you?
Detective Bigelow is deadly. Detective Mortis is dead, but he's not taking it lying down. Now, he's on the toughest murder case of his career. His own.
That's okay. Don't get up. I told you not to get up.
Dead Heat.
They don't die.
Rated R.
Now playing. Consult your local newspaper for showtime.
The majority of people in our gallery think that Hugo Bloom is not guilty of the murder of Margot White. Judge Jake's rules in 1 minute.
Oh, look, after 20 years. Michael loves Sarah.
You haven't changed.
I take care of myself.
And she takes Geritol Complete with nearly twice the iron of ordinary supplements.
Marry me? Again?
Geritol Complete for the best years of your life.
There's nothing like hot milk before bedtime.
Introducing Calgon Foaming Milk Bath with milk and baby oil to soften you all over. Treat yourself to hot milk tonight. Let new Calgon Foaming Milk Bath take you away.
Grandpa Redenbacher, I've got it.
Got what, Gary?
The snack idea of the century. Take America's favorite microwave popcorn, yours, and add the flavor of cheddar cheese or sour cream and onion.
Like this?
Orville Redenbacher's new cheddar cheese microwave popcorn.
Our sour cream and onion popcorn.
Fresh, hot, and the snack idea of the century. And it's his.
Who else?
2 hot new microwave snacks from Orville Redenbacher.
All right. Please be seated.
Will the defendant please rise? As the cornerstone of any conviction, the state, of course, must prove that the charges against the defendant are true beyond a reasonable doubt. Since the only evidence which places Hugo Bloom at the precise site of the murder is the testimony of Opal Simpson, and since her voice identification is dubious, to say the least, the state's case falls far short. And counsel, please note, as I do, that according to Ms. Simpson's testimony, the last words of Margot White were, "Why shouldn't I tell?" Not, "Why shouldn't I testify?" or "Why shouldn't I cooperate with the police?" Further, it seems to me that Hugo Bloom would be willing and able to pay the money that Margot White was demanding rather than kill her at his own place of business and risk losing everything that he built. So because of the inadequacy of the evidence against Hugo Bloom and the surprise evidence establishing that Professor Glenn Rice had a relationship with Margot White, which he feared she would reveal, thus giving him a motive, I find Hugo Bloom not guilty, and he is discharged from custody. So, Mr. Bloom, the success of your 80s-style business will not be curtailed because of an unjust murder conviction. But in this era of AIDS, I suspect it will not continue long, and I personally hope that it will not. As for the district attorney's office, I assume that you will promptly investigate the involvement of Professor Rice in this sordid affair. Court is adjourned.
All right.
Further investigation revealed that Dr. Rice had become fascinated by his student, Margot White. She had been entertaining him at Bloom's in exchange for good grades. Knowing that her job at Bloom's was ending and she would need money, she attempted to blackmail him by threatening to go to the dean. Dr. Rice confessed that he had panicked and killed Margot White.